development cannot be the preserve or the exclusive preserve of the executive or those who monopolize power. For it to be meaningful, it must be an all-of-society coalition, bringing politicians, those in government, those in the opposition, civil society, non-governmental organizations, into one space that then can figure out what is the future that befits all of us. That is why our commitment to establishing a platform of engagement, bringing together micro, small, and medium enterprise and large business owners, civil society organizations, faith-based groups, youth, women, and others to address the nation's cohesion and inequality challenges is very central. Further, in recognition of the indispensable capacity of civil society sector in promoting education and awareness, inclusion, participation, and mobilizing collective action, we committed to operationalizing the Public Benefits Organizations Act. I made that commitment, and maybe civil society have been wondering what's happening. This act stuck in limbo for over a decade. Yet it aims to expand the space for government and non-governmental organization partnership and collaboration. I am proud to announce to you that we have every intention of living up to our commitment. That is why yesterday we executed the legal instruments to give the BPO Act effect as law in Kenya. There's been a debate in Kenya as to what do we do with our public benefit organizations in Kenya, otherwise called non-governmental organizations. And there's been a robust and big debate as to what parameters do we apply. I see and I am persuaded that civil society has a real chance of making a contribution to making our country better. We may not necessarily agree, but that is the beauty of having diverse opinions. We end up with a better result if we harness all the viewpoints and finally come to a conclusion when we have considered all our diverse ideas, suggestions, and recommendations. The new BPO Act that was enacted almost 15 years ago, but we operationalized it yesterday. So, Caro, what you asked me to do, I already did. So, this framework, you know, the NGO Act put through our civil society a very chaotic mechanism where they had almost 8 pieces of legislation that governed their operation. We have now consolidated the operations of civil society into one predictable legal regime. They now can understand how registration will happen, how they can conduct their business. Secondly, and most importantly, we have made it now possible for public benefit organizations from outside Kenya not to be taken through unnecessary, rigorous explanations before they start operations in Kenya.
Many of you work at great personal risk. Climate activists are being criminalized and persecuted. Human rights defenders are threatened and humanitarians killed. I salute you, I thank you, and I ask you to keep working with us to build a better world. Today, we are entangled in crisis. Sustainable development is under threat. Conflicts are erupting with alarming frequency and horrifying results. Inequality and poverty are tearing societies apart. Many developing countries are being suffocated by debt and the cost of living crisis. Climate chaos is knocking communities off their feet, with the poorest suffering the most. And new technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, are creating new threats while fueling old bigotries and divisions. These terrible trends are playing out brutally here in Africa, where conflicts rage, extreme weather turbocharged by the climate crisis is tearing through communities with appalling consequences. The deadly floods here in Kenya are a prime example, and millions of people are on the far end of the digital divide. Dear friends, this crisis demands international solutions, but the international system is not up to the task. The United Nations Security Council is paralyzed by geopolitical divides, incapable of acting together on clear violations of international law. The international financial system is outdated, dysfunctional, and unjust. Debt relief mechanisms are totally inadequate, leaving countries marooned in the sea of exorbitant interest payments and debt service costs. Many international institutions mirror the world in which they were founded almost 80 years ago. Developing countries are underrepresented and underserved, and civil society is often marginalized. We need to reform and revitalize multilateralism so that it reflects the realities of today and is fit to face the challenges ahead. The report I presented on our common agenda sets out a vision for a more inclusive, networked, and effective multilateralism.
We have received a comprehensive view of what the civil society's perspectives are about the Pact of the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact. We are particularly pleased that we have heard a variety of voices, a very rich variety of voices, including the youth, women, people living with disabilities, as well as the many, many underrepresented groups from various regions across the world. Just yesterday, we heard a very powerful message from a 15-year-old girl from Nigeria who spoke with great wisdom. She reminded us that to adapt intergenerational equity into the Declaration of the Future. We also heard from Queen Mother, who reminded us that for all the work we do on digital matters, at the end of the day, it's about impact on humanity and acceleration of the SDGs. We heard from many of you expressed in many of your own ways, in many words, that the world is changing and changing fast, and that there's need for the Pact of the Future that will reaffirm the principles of sound multilateral systems, but also to have one that is fit for purpose, to fit the world that we see today, and to fit the world that is coming ahead of us.
The great diversity of civil society actors and interests around the globe makes it impossible to build consensus over 2 days of this conference and across the depth of issues. There is, however, great opportunity in the post-conference period for civil society to further develop the ideas emerging from this conference in the lead-up to the Summit of the Future in September. As part of the conference, in the official pre-conference, Your Excellency, Kenyan civil society held a mobilization day that Mithika alluded to, and we discussed the Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact. We also discussed the Public Benefits Organizations Act and came up with clear recommendations that we will share from this meeting to the respective government agencies. As Kenyan civil society, it is our desire to see the Public Benefits Organizations Act come into full force so that we can strengthen the way that we engage as civil society.
I'm welcoming you in your own country. Who is supposed to be welcoming who? How are you, Antonio? I'm fine. I'm very good. Welcome to your home. I really have given us a bit of.
What I am what I...
Everybody be seated, please. President of the Republic of Finland, Your Excellency civil society, and those of us joining patients, and I am so pleased to welcome you to the past 2 days have been ideas on how to generate meaningful impact to this conference, to the interactive dialogues. The format will be described in 2 words.
Civil Society Conference, we are reminded of the weight of history, future of global and sustainable